Natalie Portman is great in Lucy in the Sky. Too bad the film isn't. Lucy in the Sky stars Natalie Portman, Jon Hamm, Zazie Beetz, Ellen Burstyn, Coleman Domingo from Fear the Walking Dead, Dan Stevens, and Nick Offerman. The film is based on true events. You might recall an astronaut, a female astronaut. Her name was Lisa Nowak, I believe. She was masterminding a kidnapping of her fellow astronaut and a woman he was involved with who was a fellow astronaut. They were both competing to go up in space. And so it's loosely based on that. So basically, Natalie Portman plays Lucy Cole. They didn't use the actual names because, like I said, it's loosely based. It's not the actual events. And it's an interesting movie in that you see how female astronauts have to work twice as hard with the men in order to be sent up into space. Lucy in the Sky, if you recognize the title, is the lyrics to a Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And basically that song is about someone who has their heads in the clouds and always dreaming of what can be or what could be or what's next. So it's kind of fitting for this movie. The movie is directed by Noah Hawley. He's a first-time feature film director. He's worked mostly in TV, most recently with Legion. I guess he's one of the creators who brought that to television world, and also Fargo. So if you watch Legion, you probably know what you're in for in this movie, but more of that later. The movie opens with Lucy Cole floating in space. Lucy Cole is an astronaut with NASA. She's up in space, she's floating in space, admiring her view of planet Earth, which looks spectacular. Her crew member is urging her to come back in. It's time to move on to the next thing. I think they have to go back to Earth, and she is telling them to hold on. She can't tear herself apart from this fantastic view, and who can blame her, right? Once she comes back to Earth, however, she's having a hard time adjusting to life, because how do you top such a transcendent experience such as being in space and looking at planet Earth? It's kind of like when you go on vacation to this really nice place, exotic or a resort, and you come back and you get the vacation blues. That's what she's got. Vacation. Well, it wasn't vacation. So working blues. She's married to Dan Stevens, who seems like a husband out of the 50s, so bland and always excited and happy, and he's very supportive of her, which is great. And she wants to go back into space. So in order to do that, they have to go through the same testing and exercises in order to qualify. And only one woman apparently can go up in space. It's Lucy Cole and another woman astronaut played by Zazie Beetz. So she's in competition. She just started there. And Lucy at first is very supportive of her and tells her, hey, we got to work twice as hard, so let's play it as a team and not be against each other. We also have Jon Hamm, who's an astronaut, and he's already been up to space. So he starts canoodling with Lucy, telling her, now you're part of a club. And so he invites her out to a club with other astronauts. Of course, there's only 2 other people, so I don't call that a club. Anyway, she eventually gets involved with Jon Hamm, and all of a sudden we start seeing her lose her mind a little bit. She starts to get a little jealous of Jon Hamm's character when it seems like he's a playboy and he's also wooing Zazie Beetz. While she's carrying on this affair, she can't sleep. Psychologically, she's just not the same. That experience totally changed her in that she can't resume her normal life as a wife, as an aunt. She is taking care of her brother's niece because her mom died and the dad is just a little bit of a flake, so he's not around. And the grandmother is also in the picture, played by Ellen Burstyn, and she's great. And essentially, she has taught Lucy all her life that she's got to fight for everything that she wants. Director Noah Hawley is a first-time feature film director. He's worked mostly in television. He worked on Fargo, writing and producing and directing, and as well as Legion. Now, if you watch Legion, you know it's a very weird show visually. And the story seems pretty linear, but the visuals are just right out there. I stopped watching the show just because I felt like I was on drugs. It's very psychedelic. Well, he brings kind of that visual storytelling to Lucy in the Sky. So he plays with aspect ratios. So we start out with a widescreen, and sometimes when we're seeing Natalie Portman unwind mentally, the screen shrinks to almost like a 4:3, but it keeps moving in and in. And that kept taking me out of the movie, because then it would go back to widescreen. And I was trying to figure out, okay, what is he saying? Is he saying her mind is closing in on her, so you see the framing close in? But it wasn't consistent. So you constantly have these frames, aspect ratios, changing in and out as the story goes. Natalie Portman's performance was the best thing about this movie. As I mentioned, the visual storytelling kept taking me out of the moment. You're watching this woman unravel, but instead of focusing on the reasons or showing exactly why she's unraveling, he relies on the framing of it to kind of tell the story. He might have worked, but it was just really very inconsistent. At the end, the frame is widescreen. So, and at that point, she's unraveled completely. So for the director to go back to a widescreen, it didn't make much sense to me. I know he was probably trying to say something, but I don't know what. Might as well just put it on the subtitles to let us know why his choice of aspect ratio, how that informs us about her psychological state. And I talked to other people, and they kind of had the same. Well, some people liked the visuals, so it was a mixed bag coming out. I was asking other people what they thought. Some people were like, "What the hell is this?" And then towards the end, I remember, oh gosh, that's the story they're trying to tell. This real astronaut who bought the perfect amount of tape and rope to kidnap this person, and she wore diapers because she was traveling, I believe, all the way to Florida to catch up to her lover and his new lover to kidnap either one of them or both of them. And then I recalled, and I was like, oh, that's really happened. But instead of examining how somebody like an astronaut, who are very intelligent in terms of their engineers, they have to meet a certain criteria to go up into space as astronauts. So how could someone on that level be taken down by a love affair? I mean, it just seems very silly. If they're very practical nature, that doesn't seem very practical, unless what the movie's trying to say, that experience caused a bit of a meltdown, but there had to have been some kind of precursor or some kind of psychological thing going on with her beforehand. How can you have that kind of experience and then going into space and then totally lose it? And I wish she would have examined that a bit more. To me, it seemed like, okay, she had this experience, this transcendent experience in space, and who wouldn't? I mean, it's like godlike level, being able to see Earth from that aspect. But what other elements attributed to this breakdown? What the film is trying to say, I think, is that ultimately it was this relationship that she became involved in that was her ultimate downfall. While I liked Natalie Portman's performance, and she was really good at what she was doing, it just added to the fact that women are often called crazy, and especially in the workplace. So I didn't like the fact that this story contributes to that idea and over love, because essentially we start seeing her really unravel when she finds out that her lover has taken on another younger astronaut under his wings. And that's when we see her become really jealous, and she starts acting irrationally. And so instead of attributing it to this event that she has and she's not able to come down from, that would have been a more interesting story without involving a love story. So I'll recommend this movie just based on Natalie Portman's performance. And if you want something different, I think the film was trying to go for something different. I don't think it accomplished what it wanted to do, because it kept taking you out of the moments with the different visual techniques. But overall, I think it was an enjoyable film. It shows also how women have to work twice as hard in a male-dominated field, and especially at NASA, which you have to be pretty smart, book smart, engineer level intelligence to be an astronaut, to go up into space, because you have to go through a program before you even go up into space, and you have to qualify. So can you imagine, as a woman, having to compete with these men?
I'm fine.
Well, if you get a chance to watch the movie, let us know what you thought in the comments below.